it again today. I've got a few days off this week and I only have a little bit of time to get my garden in, and I have all of my winter sowing jugs still to transplant. That's what my plan is today, to get my cabbage, my broccoli, celery. I think I've got some cauliflower and chard to get in, and the rest of my sowing jugs I believe are flowers. So hopefully I can get the flowers transplanted as well and figure out where I'm going to put those. So anyways, I think that they did really well, but it's going to be interesting to see how the transplanting goes since it's so hot. We haven't had rain in, I don't know, maybe like 3 weeks, and if we did, it would only lasted like 5 or 10 minutes, which barely did anything. So I've lost, I want to say, about 10 tomato plants just because I don't have any water, and I don't have a hose out here, but I've been bringing jugs out, but it's still not enough. So that's kind of disappointing, but the ones that are thriving look good, and I'm hoping that I can keep them all. And I did some cuttings from the ones that grew quite big, so I'm hoping to take those cuttings that I've started from the tomatoes. So those suckers, I just pulled the suckers off, put them in water, and I'm hoping to transplant them out into the ones, like the spaces at the ones that died, so to fill those back in. So that's the nice thing about having suckers and being able to use those for transplanting. It's like, I don't know, it's like 8:30, so it's probably the coolest part of the day, but the bugs are still kind of out. Once the heat of the sun comes, it's going to be very hot, and I really don't want to be sitting in the middle of my hot garden, but the bugs are better. So heat stroke are bugs. Anyway, I'm just going to get started and get these in. So these are the broccoli that I started in the house, and they're doing really well. So I'm hoping once I get my winter sowing broccoli in, that they'll do just as good too. I'm just going to get these broccoli into the ground from the winter sowing jugs. They would have been a lot bigger than this had I had planted them sooner, but with my work schedule and everything else that's been going on, getting the fence and everything up, it just wasn't a priority. Well, it's not that it wasn't a priority, I just didn't actually have the time to do it. They're so very dry. It's been so hot that it doesn't matter how often I water them in those jugs, that the soil just dries out so fast because there's not a lot of soil in the jugs. But I know that these things are going to do phenomenal once they get in the ground and get more room to grow. Just like tomatoes, you're just going to try and separate them as best that you can without injuring as much root as possible. That's the broccoli there. It's going to go on the ground. This is the celery, and I've never grown celery before, but as you can see, there's plenty of it in here. All right, there's that. I will say I like growing them in the pop bottles, but they seem to grow better in the pop bottles, but they're hard to get out. Soak these a little bit, and you want to remember celery likes water, so I don't know if this is necessarily the best spot to grow it. It's not the wettest soil I have, however. We're going to give it a try. Okay, first celery going in. Interested to see how this is going to work because we love celery. Put it in almost everything. Two more little celeries. The reason why I chose to do my celery here as opposed to the wetter spot is because this is where I used to do my beans, and I used to do 3 rows, so there's lots of holes already here, and I can tell there's lots of celery, so I figured I might be able to fill in all these little holes with my celery instead of having to cut new ones. So this is just a little update on my red Russian kale that I planted. You can see that they're coming up quite nice. I planted those at the same time I planted my indoor broccoli that I started. So they're doing pretty good, quite big already. And as you can see, they grow quite differently than regular kale. And I love it because it's not so curly that you're getting all the dirt and everything in there. There's another one. Beautiful. And then I've got my cabbage that I planted when I planted the kale and the broccoli. These are the ones I started in the house. And so now I'm going to plant my cabbage that I started with winter sowing. So these are my cabbages that I started with winter sowing. I believe this is Copenhagen. And anyways, we're going to try and get these in the ground now. The chickens really like eating the cabbage, so they do have to be inside the fence. They can take up, they don't take up too much room, but the heads can get quite large. I've got a fair amount of cabbage to plant, it looks like. Take a chunk off. Make sure you put that in the shade. I find cabbage, I mean, these little seedlings will grow so fast and so big. I don't know, I've never had a problem growing cabbage other than the fact that the bugs can get at it, but you can start them as little as possible and they just make a comeback like you wouldn't believe. Super easy to transplant. I'm just going to continue to plant my cabbage since I ran out of space where I was planting it and had to look for a new area, which to me these are a little bit too close together, but I think it can still work, so I'm going to put them here. It's even hot enough that the chickens are quiet today. Probably over in the bush just trying to keep cool, most likely. So the next thing on the list to plant is my cauliflower. There's a little baby cauliflower. It's interesting to see what they turn out to be like in a couple weeks, how fast they grow and if they all take. I cannot believe the size of my tomatoes. I don't know if you can see them or not, but I only planted them on Sunday and it is Wednesday today. Look at my basil. Everything's growing so big. And I only watered it once, so this is crazy. Look at the size of this. It's huge. My pepper plant was tiny when I put them in. So they really, really like the heat. There's my basil, it was little. More tomato plants. Parsley. Look at that tomato plant, it's pretty big. I can't believe, oh, we're getting a little pepper. Look at the little pepper coming. I don't know if you can see it. look. I mean, this isn't even a week in here. Look at this. I've got a little pepper growing too. Oh, there's some right there. Pepper starting. Got another pepper. My cucumber plants are doing really well. So everything seems to really enjoy it in here, really enjoy the heat. The thing is I haven't watered, which you'd be like, what? You haven't watered in your greenhouse? This is a low spot. We have to remember this is one of the lower spots of my property down here. Even though, you know, it's not wet soil, underneath could be wet. The other thing is too, the condensation, when it cools down at night, I mean, it hasn't really cooled down. It goes down to like 15, 18. And then in the day, it's in like the 30s and 40s. There's condensation on the top of the plastic, and it'll drip down and water a little bit of the soil. So I don't know if you can see the wet spots. There's the dry dirt here, and there's wet. And it seems to be that wherever the plants are, there is moisture. So I don't know if they're just holding on to it. I have no rhyme or reason. I really honestly don't know why, but you can see it really well here. Okay, dry, wet. So I have no idea. It's a mystery and a blessing. And you can see it all throughout. Wherever there's plants, there's moisture being kept there. And it could have been the Epsom salts, who knows? But it has been, like, I planted Sunday, it's Wednesday, and I only watered that one time. I will continue to water in here, obviously, but it's just, you know, it's shocking, really. Sucker here, I'll be coming and getting rid of this sucker. It grows in between the main stem and the leaves. These are called suckers. And you take these, you break them off, and you can plant them in the ground, put them in water, but it'll form a new plant. So there's another one starting here. And that's how, you know, I have 10 that died outside. So really, I'll be taking these suckers. Oh, I see another one. I'll be taking these suckers, and I'll just be putting in those spots where I had the 10 that died. So really, I'm not losing anything. And I'll get a variety of things planted everywhere, which is wonderful. Yeah, see? Look at that. Already up to almost 43. I'm going to plant the last thing I think I'm going to plant today of plants. I might throw a couple zucchini seeds in the greenhouse here, like I mentioned on my last video, I think. Today, what I am going to be planting, though, is my melons. So I've got some, what's this one? So this one's a watermelon. I've got a few watermelon plants. I also have a few cantaloupe. Now, last year I did plant the cantaloupe outside, and it did okay. They didn't ripen up though, so that wasn't super great. But we got about 3 melons, and then we planted watermelon 2 years ago outside and got only a couple watermelon, and they didn't taste good either. So I don't think, even though I got the shortest season melons I could find, I don't think it's quite a long enough season here yet. So what I'm thinking is to trial some inside the greenhouse. And there's not a lot of room in here, and they spread. The nice thing about what I'm doing is my tomatoes grow tall, the peppers grow, they can grow tall, they grow big and bushy, but my cucumbers grow tall as well. So everything is kind of growing tall, whereas the melons grow as a vine on the ground. I can do that. So my thought is, why not have the vines growing where the walkways aren't, just growing around my plants. So not sure how it's going to work, but you don't know if you don't try. So I'm going to try to do just maybe 1 or 2 of the melons, a couple different kinds, to see if they actually turn out or not. So I'm going to plant maybe 1 or 2 plants over there and just have them kind of, this is the walkway, but if I have them growing that way, we'll see what we can do. There's a couple other spots I could stick a few as well. Again, it might look like a jungle in here, but if I can get as much food as I can out of this greenhouse, that's kind of the ultimate goal. I'd like to thank you for joining us once again at Ploughman's Backyard. I'm thankful that we got a lot of things planted. We did the cauliflower, broccoli, celery. I even got some stuff planted in the greenhouse, my melons and things. And it's getting quite hot. It was about 1 o'clock, which is kind of getting on to the hottest part of the day. And it's in the greenhouse, I think it was said it was about 40 something. So it's quite warm out. So I think I'm just gonna call it a day. Got a lot accomplished. Now I'm gonna probably work on mowing the lawn. Eventually, I think maybe in the next couple days, I'd like to plant some more carrots and things like that. And I think my vegetable garden will be just about complete. And then I want to work on some flower beds. As you can see, my flowers are doing quite well, and it's one of the things that I just find so much joy in and so much beauty in coming out. It's like a little piece of heaven for me to come out and enjoy the flowers and the smells and just to see all the pollinators out. It's such a blessing. So thank you for joining us once again here at Ploughman's Backyard. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. Also, leave us some comments. I would love to hear what each and every one of you guys are doing and get to know you guys. I want to thank you for watching and supporting us. And until next time, don't forget to stop and smell the roses or the irises.